أشكركم على تنظيم هذه الفعالية الجانبية ولدعوتي. سأتحدث عن أمرين، أولهما أن أجيب مباشرة على أسئلتك.
Highlight few things that I think are important in our report and how this report is different than the previous report. There are several ways in which civil society can help, and the documentation of civil society becomes extremely important. Let me just give you one example. Before we do our report, we actually ask for submissions. We actually do a call for submissions. When this call for submissions, we ask particular questions and highlight areas that I think are important. And we tell you kind of like, this is the information that we'd like to receive. So information in these areas are become extremely important. We receive submissions. We don't always we don't footnote the submissions, because what we do is that we verify them. So the information that we receive are not what is in the report, is basically verified and checked and so on. So this is really important. How are they verified and checked? That's extremely important for you to know. If you look at the report, you'll find that we ourselves do our own investigation. So in this year, just for the preparation of this report, we said we interviewed 257 people, individual interviews, 120 men, 137 women. We also conducted, we actually verified a lot of the videos that you send us. We look at them, we verify them, we make sure that they are accurate, describing what we think the event is. And we do what we call geolocate them. That basically we make sure that the event, that the location of the video is accurate. So this year, as for the result of this submission, we received submissions from 147 individuals, separate individuals, and 32 civil society organizations. This is, of course, very, very important for us. As I mentioned, we travel also to the neighboring countries. Until now, Sudan has not allowed us to enter into Sudan, but we travel into the neighboring countries, Chad, Uganda, hopefully soon South Sudan, and maybe Central African Republic, and we continue to ask to access Egypt, and hopefully soon we will be able to access Egypt. We also been to Ethiopia. And there are other things that you'll find in the report. The key point that I want to stress is that information is key for us, is really important. It gives us leads to where we can look. It tells us what is important for you, what are the more important trends, but also what are the more important locations where you think the violations are taking place. That's really key for us. So, and what would be really important is for you to understand, as I say, we verify this information and we actually apply a standard reasonable grounds to believe, which is the standards, which basically means that we have to have a lot of corroborated evidence. So it's not one story, it's not one person's story, but it's several person's stories leading to the same, and other information leading to the same result. So maybe I'll stop at that for the documentation. I want to just very quickly tell you a few things that I think are important in this report that you didn't see perhaps in the other report. So what is new in this report that you didn't see in the previous report? This is the second major report that we do on the situation. What we saw from violations not only continued, but they also intensified and deepened. Three main things that I'd like to mention. One is three main patterns and trends that I'd like to mention on violations that I'd like to mention. The first one, I'll be very, I'm almost there. The first one is the reprisals. it's really very worrying that what happens is that when areas change hands, what happens is that those people, the people living in that area, are seen as basically collaborating with the other side. And we have documented a lot of cases from both SAF and RSF, where basically a lot of arrests, arbitrary detention, and we have verified information of summary execution, on-the-spot execution after beating and so on. So that's for us is very, very serious. These reprisals and these attacks against communities, collective punishment sometimes of communities is extremely serious. The second issue that I'd like to also highlight is the issue of starvation. And there, three components are essential. One is the attacks on the places where the people can access food. So, and this is where the markets are. And we documented a lot of markets being attacked by both sides. So this is very important information for us when you bring it to our attention. So Al-Fashir and beyond Al-Fashir, particularly in the RSF-controlled area, but also so the access to food and water. And then the third aspect that I will mention is what we actually talked about is the crime of extermination. This is really essential because if you combine, it's a crime against humanity, it combines, it's starvation plus, it combines, it's about creating conditions of life that basically lead to the extermination of communities. So this is about killings, denial of food and water and medical assistance. So the attacks on hospitals that we actually talk about a lot in the report, as well as denial of humanitarian assistance. The combination of these leads to conditions of life which are basically lead to the extermination. This is the first time we use this language. We use it in particular with regard to events in Al-Fashir. We're very worried about Kordofan right now and other areas in where there is active war. We've seen some of these events unraveling also in Al Jazeera area. So one is really worried about this. Why I mention these three issues, and I will end here, because these are crimes under international law. These crimes have specific elements, and when we use these words, it means that these specific elements we have considered that they actually existed, and they are actually there. So linking back to the issue of documentation, how do we know this? Is because you provided us for the documentation and we verified this documentation and we were able to reach the threshold of saying these crimes have actually may have taken place in this territory in a credible way because there are reasonable grounds to believe that these acts have taken place and they amount to international crimes. Thank you very much.